I got the sneaking suspicion that we're not giving the people what they want.
It's okay, baby. Let's give the people what they want.
You co-wrote this, obviously, as you did your Oscar-nominated script for Joker with Todd Phillips. And this is not your typical sequel. What we look at in the industry is if you do one thing, then you're going to do it 10 more times. This is bold and different, adventurous, and just altogether surprising and really works, in my opinion, as I've said in print. So let me congratulate you on that. You didn't take the easy way out. And I just want to know, how did you come up with this?
Joaquin and Todd, we weren't sure if we were ever going to do a sequel. And Joaquin and Todd got together and thought for a minute that maybe we should do it on Broadway. But it takes a long time, apparently, to mount a Broadway show, like 5 years. And I've never written a Broadway show. And I'm not sure what the Broadway version of the movie would have been. And so in talking to Todd, I was like, I love the subversive idea of sort of doing it as a Broadway show. But how about instead if we did it as like a one-man show for 2 or 3 weeks at the Carlisle Hotel? So we started writing that. We started writing the one-man show. We picked some songs and we had some ideas of sort of what that would look like. And then COVID hit. And we were like, oh. And then we were like, well, we have this idea with him singing. And, he is so musical in a lot of ways. In the first movie, we were like, how about if we turn this into a musical? And you're like, that also sounds insane and crazy and a risk. Because the first movie was a risk. Nobody kind of knew what it was going to be or expected that or, was kind of wanted it, that our version of Joker. So that's how we started. Okay, how are we going to turn this into a musical? And that was a challenge, but that's kind of how it started.
And then you got the idea to bring Lady Gaga and Harley Quinn into it?
Early on, we knew there was going to be a relationship. We didn't want to do the same movie again. And we kind of struggled with, is this guy really Joker? That was kind of the question of the first movie for a lot of people watching it. Like, how could this guy be Joker with Batman being so young? And, we never had to make a sort of choice in the first movie. It's like maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But for the second movie, we're like, maybe that's what it should be about. But we knew we wanted to make it about, not just about a violence, but about a love story. If you're going to have a relationship with Joker, who's that going to be? It has to be, Harley Quinn. And then Todd had the idea because he had worked with Stephanie, with Lady Gaga on A Star Is Born. He was like, how about her? It was like perfect because she kind of brought music with her. And there was such kind of a genre shift, like having somebody who brings the music. And that's kind of what we felt with casting her, besides the fact that she's a terrific actress too. Todd had the idea almost when we started writing the character to sort of that she would be the right person.
All the crafts on this are, as you might expect, just top of the line here. But let me start with you, Steve, because we're talking about all the music here. And as a sound mixer, working with all those musical elements is no easy task. Tell me how you did it.
Yeah, well, it was important that we allowed the actors to, sing live, because Stephanie always sings live. I did A Star Is Born.
You're singing live, which is not usually the way it's done.
Yeah, normally it's a pre-record. You play it back through loudspeakers, and they just lip sync, and then you kind of lose. I think you lose some of the soul of the character because that's pre-recorded in a music stage 2-3 months earlier. Whereas what we did on the film is we allowed the actors to sing at their own pace, and we had a pianist play along with them to keep up the timing for them, as opposed to them trying to keep up with the music. So they would, get that fed in their ear, and they could live in the scene, live in the sets, live in the emotion. That was always the goal, is just to bring the reality of what they were doing to the screen as authentically as you could.
Lawrence Sher, you did the first one, I know.
I did.
As cinematographer, nominated for an Oscar. And tell us about the particular challenges for you this time around, and visually, what you were looking for, because it sort of starts with a different kind of palette. And then for those musical fantasy sequences, you're looking at a different kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we wanted to expand as well as maintain a sort of consistency and transition into this new sort of Joker. So we start in a palette that's very similar to the first one, motivated by sources, windows, fluorescence, all those things. But obviously the music and those fantasies or those opportunities allow us to be much more dynamic with the lighting, bigger color palette choices, much more camera movement. But, the overwhelming philosophy is to give as much freedom to the actors as possible. So we start with an idea of like, what can we do to basically light the sets 360 degrees and allow for every single shot to go from the top of the scene to the bottom. So every single shot and piece of setup that we do is a master. We prepare immensely with like the production designer to put the windows where we want them and the lighting and all this other stuff to like plan for everything and then discover everything on the day. And so it really is sort of a, for lack of a better word, like a live jazz performance with the camera and the actors. And we're all sort of learning it for the first time. And then each take discovering opportunities.
Yeah, amazing. And what is it like collaborating with Todd on the visual look here?
I mean, this is our 7th film in 15 years. And so a lot of it is unsaid and unspoken. And for me, it's a lot of just watching him talk to the actors and slowly sort of watching where they might be. And then quickly turning over the sides, drawing out a little overhead and going, this feels like what we could do to cover this scene. We talk a lot in advance about the big ideas, color choices, where we're doing big camera moves, that oneer that takes place, it's like after the explosion and he comes to and goes all the way outside, gets thrown in the back of a car, escapes and runs down, the city street. That, of course, takes a lot of meticulous planning. So we talk through that and we test that and all that. But most of what Todd and I talk about are just big emotional ideas about what this scene is about and then how that drives the camera.
Yeah. And Jeff, you too have obviously worked with Todd a lot. So what is that in the editing room? Are you editing as it goes along? Are you waiting until the whole thing's done? What's the technique here?
Yeah, I'm, of course, absolutely editing as it goes along. And I think that it's, we basically put together the scene and Todd essentially his request that I put it together as I see it, as the things come in. And then once the whole movie is put together, which is not long after production is done, then we sit down and start to work on it every day. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months, sometimes it can go into years. And I guess the biggest thing is that since they have, like as Steve and Larry have both said, it's like the creative freedom that is allowing for these things on a day-to-day basis. You're basically putting together things like you have to pick kind of something to build a context around, and then you're building these contexts in a larger, like for building the entire scene.
Arianne, this is actually, you did not do the first Joker.
I didn't.
So you're walking into an existing kind of world here, and I'll use the word challenge again. How challenging is that to walk into a movie where it's the second one?
Well, I mean, it was my great good fortune, really, to walk into Mark Bridges, who's a friend of mine, a brilliant costume designer's shoes, and the work that everyone here, except for Steve, we were new kids on the block, did with the first movie and creating this beautiful story. So for me, I look for challenges. I mean, I think, we don't want to repeat ourselves. So this was an incredible script that kind of had me at hello. And actually, I thought it was perfect for it because I've done a lot of films with music and actually come from like a music background working with artists. And I found that the musical aspect to this film gave an emotional levity to the story that for me is like the best fodder for design. And, this is a tragic love story. That's how I looked at it, almost Shakespearean. And so I felt like there was a lot I could do and I could bring to the story and this beautiful world. And so it was embarrassment of riches, really.
Can you talk about working with Gaga and that character in particular in developing that look? Because it's not what we expect when we hear that Harley Quinn or any kind of relation. She plays Lee, so she's coming at it from a different point. But it's important to see how she dresses here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great script, has a great character arc, and, we meet her as Lee, and we see this evolution on her crazy sycophant journey following Arthur and really becoming her her true self, or who she thinks she is at the end of the movie. That's also something that I look for as a character arc, and where a character starts and ends up is being able to create the visual tonal part of that story is like a great gift. And Stephanie is an incredible performer, and she is all in. I didn't know her before, and I assumed just based on her persona that she would be able to go there, and I wasn't mistaken. And we had these Mondo workshop fittings that I call Camp Lee, and we started fitting actually when we started shooting the film, which was late October, early November, and it was great because I would go to set and in the morning and establish, and then we'd have these fittings with her hair and makeup, and it was a lot of fun. We put on makeup, she did hair, we listened to music, and she was fully committed, and it was great. And then we'd show Todd kind of what we came up with, and we'd do different iterations, and it was a journey. It was a really exciting process, probably one of the most exciting experiences I've had with an actor, just in terms of the curiosity and the willingness to kind of improvise. And Larry, you said jazz. It was like jazz improv, working with this group, and also, I don't know about you, Steve, but being the new kid was quite daunting, right? And you have this first film to live up to visually and narratively and everything. So it was great. I was not sleeping a lot at night. I was like really energized.
That's entertainment, folks. Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you
Appreciate it.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.